Morning, everybody. Congratulations to anyone that made out of the relative safety, warmth, and comfort of their bed this morning. I feel like this is the marketers equivalent of the Chiefs-Dolphins game. So bravo on getting up and getting out. I will let Rachel introduce herself in 1 second. I'm Tom Donohue. I'm the head of strategy for North America of BeenThereDoneThat. BeenThereDoneThat is a consultancy essentially that is built on a community of about 500 of the world's greatest minds. We talk about the world's greatest thinkers, solving the world's toughest problems for your brands. Essentially, it means I don't have to be very clever. I just have to find the people that are very clever to solve your kind of marketing challenges from innovation, strategy, creativity, etc. So, Rachel,
Yes.
I'll let you introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
Yeah, that is a great first question. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming and listening to us chat this morning. I'm Rachel Abeles, and I am the Senior Vice President of Customer and Revenue Growth, which has a lot of important words, but what does it really mean? So I have the privilege of being on the leadership team at Bloomingdales and overseeing our customer strategy and experience, our digital and technology platforms, and innovation and growth. At the core of all of those responsibilities is, of course, a fantastic team that I have the privilege of leading, but really it's about stewardship towards a really customer-centric mindset for our organization, not only listening to the customer and taking all of the rich data and insights that we have, but making sure that we're packaging it and making it actionable for not only our teams as we design and elevate the customer experience across all touch points, but really making sure that we then contextualize the customer, and as we talk about it, making our customer as real to our strategists and our tacticians as the people that they work with day to day, as real as Tom is next to me. And so I've had the opportunity to spend 12 years at Bloomingdales and have had almost 7 mini careers within that. So started as a merchant, had a couple of different roles, then built our internal strategy team, and then stepped over to this role a couple of years ago.
You were just telling me about your mother, which almost feels like you were sort of destined to end up here. What were you saying that your mother has been collecting for a long time?
Yes. My mom would be embarrassed if she was, the showpiece of today's talk. No, I'm kidding. I love my mother. So I didn't know that I would land at Bloomingdale's, but once I did, all of these, interesting things came out, which is one, my mother actually so Bloomingdale's has an iconic big brown bag, which you all may know, and if you're anywhere in the proximity of 59th and Lex, you see a lot of them in shoppers' hands, which is good for us, and a great recyclable, sustainable walking billboard. But at many points throughout the years, over the past several decades, we do limited edition. And it's an opportunity, which we'll talk a bit about, but is to connect our heritage and our brand identity with cultural properties that are of the moment. And so we drop these several times a year. And my mom actually has collected them since the 80s. So when I became a buyer, she actually gifted 3 of them to me and framed them for my office. And I was telling Tom when we redesigned our new headquarters in Long Island City a couple of years ago, we leveraged her archives to find them and then have them be showpieces within our new office, so that as our teams came into the office every day, they had a nod to our heritage and our past as a jumping off point to how we build and write our future.
And there's something to that. Bloomingdale, specifically as a brand, is not a department store as a vessel for other brands. Bloomingdale's has always had an identity, an opinion, a style, a swagger. Its sort of original strapline or promise was purveyor of fancy stuffs, which frankly, it still is today, and I think it kind of still holds up. But obviously we're in talk here, which is about the future of retail. I would argue it's about writing the future of retail, because what you're doing right now is, the future is now, old man, as the meme says. You guys are engaged in some incredibly interesting, sort of groundbreaking things that are pushing at the boundaries here in retail. So I'm just interested, why do you think customer experience is that critical battleground for you guys? And what is changing over the last 2 and 3 years that is, the sort of tidal forces moving you forward?
Sure. Yeah. And we talk a lot about this. So, as I'm sure it is not new news to anyone in this room, but the department store model has certainly been under attack over the past, 10, 15 years. And there are the critics, and then there are the avid supporters. And I think, a big part of it is truly we are in the age of ubiquity, right? Like we, at the end of the day, what we do is we sell merchandise. And if that's all that we did, then yeah, we really wouldn't be relevant, because you can get most of the things that we sell or any retailer sells in many, many places, whether online, in-store, mono-brand, multi-category. So what we spend a lot of time focusing on is, one, what is our point of view, right? So one, you can take ubiquity to a more actionable and competitive space by, one, applying a point of view. But then it's, okay, that's one step, but then you want to have a point of distinction. But if that point of distinction doesn't matter to the customer, then being distinct for distinct's sake really is useless. So what we really think about is, how do we, one, take the point of view and really apply that to, at the top, the brand stories that we curate, the products that we curate, the brands that we curate. And in that, to your point, it's how do we find this really healthy balance between being a house of brands versus a branded house that really speaks to our customer through the choices that we make. And then the real point of distinction that has to matter in this age is that customer experience, right? Because it's the choices that we make in the products that we offer. It's the choices that we make in the stories that we tell in our brand, and ultimately the many ways that we can use different marketing tactics to bring it to life. That'll bring customers to us for that first visit. What will ultimately bring them back for the second visit is what happened during that visit. And that is all about the customer experience. And so I think the reason that we are so focused on the customer experience, and that means everything across the service spectrum, from the quick and the convenient and the efficient, whether that's online or in store, to everything in between, to the other end of the service spectrum, right, which is that high touch, truly emotional, anticipatory part. And that's what then makes the things that happen during that visit so much more than a transaction. It's memories, it's emotion. And we can go back to my mom, right? But like, something happened in the experience that made her a believer, a collector. And those are the things then that she passed down. And so that's what we're really focused on, is leveraging these moments that we have to build really meaningful connections where, yes, the KPI has to be conversion. Yes, it ultimately has to be sales. But really, if we could put a KPI on memories, we know that would be a high correlate to a second, a third, and ultimately lifetime value.
I love that. So in strategy, we're prone to overcomplicating things, but simplifying it to a point of view, a point of difference, and a memory created. If we could all do that in the world of retail and other brand experiences, I think, brands would be in much better shape.
I appreciate that summation for me.
I'm stealing it. So let's talk practically. What is actually happening? We saw the Barbiedales situation last year. Can you tell us how that performed, what it emerged from, what it means about how you guys are treating customer experience and your interrelationship with culture?
Yes. So we have evolved over the past 150 years from, yes, a purveyor of fancy stuff, to actually taking the thing that our founders 151 years ago believed, which was retail as theater. So now we hear that all the time, but Joseph and Lyman Bloomingdale really made that their purpose. And so that's one of the threads that as an organization we've really held on to, which is taking that notion of retail as theater and making sure we aren't just holding on to what it meant 150 years ago or 50 years ago, but then making sure that we're attaching it to things that are, I would say, our sweet spot. And we're very careful in the partners that we pick, because we don't want to just attach our brand to something that could be fleeting. So something that is right in that sweet spot of the moment, but also enduring, right? And so Barbiecore, I've jumped to the fashion. I'll come back there in a minute. Barbie was a perfect example of that. So Bloomingdales has had a partnership with Mattel for 30 plus years in a number of different ways. You even referenced coming across some old Barbie Bloomingdales. They're out there. And when we had the opportunity to be part of the worldwide phenomenon that was Barbie, we said, yeah, this feels right for us. But we're not just going to say, let's make this the campaign of the summer in our handle. What we do now and what we think about is really defining what 360 degrees means. And so one, yes, it's about the handle for our brand and our brand storytelling that cuts through the clutter for a multi-generational demographic, right? So we feel very fortunate to have a balanced customer base across not only different ages, but variety of life stages. And so Barbie, right, is about our future. It's also about nostalgia. It's the thing that a mother and a daughter can relate on, right? It's a thing that brings you to your past, but also now has this whole new, very culturally relevant story attached to it. So yes, storytelling, but then we said, okay, product. So our private brand team did a collaboration with Aqua, our private label, and developed a whole suite of a whole line that really brought the ethos of Barbiecore to life. Then we created Barbie's Dream House in our 59th Street flagship. And then when you went online, it showed up everywhere through the shopping journey, and not just editorial and inspiration, but we went deeper into the science of this. So in the digital experience, one of the things, especially when we want to attach ourselves, right, to culturally relevant properties, is we want to make sure then that we're making it shoppable, right? The commerce part of this whole thing. So I'll use this Barbiecore as an example. So if you were just to search on the site Barbie, you could just get things that returned, right? Mattel's Barbie doll, something with the name Barbie in it. But instead, and this is one of the things that is very core to our, not just Bloomingdale shopper, but is very important to our customer specifically, is they're really on the trend. So they knew that Barbiecore was this word. So if you would have gone onto the site and typed in Barbiecore, one of the things that we did is through AI-driven smart attribution is we built this really fashion-engaged return of products that was not just about things that were on the nose, that were pink and high heel and things that had Barbie in the name, but they really brought the ethos to life for the customer shopping for women, the customer shopping for kids, and frankly, the customer who was trying to become Ken. And that all came to life. And so that's just a couple of the ways when we say we want to pick properties that connect to the past, are of the moment, will move with us, are enduring for the future, and then we can meaningfully say we are bringing it to life across so many touch points.
And I think that speaks to your role that you defined, was that what is our point of view as a curator and creator, right, not just a vessel. And interesting, that kind of timely and timeless and future focused but nostalgic. You just did a Wonka tie-in as well. Yeah. What was the narrative there? How did that go down? And was it fun?
Yes. Well, we fun is in our mission statement. So the first part of our mission statement is Bloomingdale's makes fashion personal and fun, aspirational yet approachable. So we hold on to those 4 words with everything that we do, and make sure that we are staying core to who we are. Wonka is the perfect example of that. So holiday is a critically important time for any retail business, but for us, showing up in really meaningful ways at life's most important moments, but also like really great gift giving times. Holiday is perfect for that. And so Wonka was this amazing collaboration to both, yes, right, the movie was amazing. Again, I won't be repetitive, nostalgia, future, etc. But then it was the handle for our gifting strategy. And so you saw, yes, lots of candy themed things, but then what we did is, there was a high luxury angle to the Wonka storyline. And so we leaned into that. And then we went as far as our merchants took the color palette. The core of the color palette was purples and golds and browns. And so it went one step further to then go really into the curation of fashion, which you could find online and in store. So that's a key strategy for us, to your point, to make sure that we are bringing yes, we are taking a strong curated point of view to the products that we bring to life for our customer, but that we're having a boatload of fun as we're trying to bring it to life.
Yeah, and I think, what stands out to me is that there are lazy ways to borrow from culture and kind of steal a little bit of the limelight, but there are also fundamentally way more creative and commercial ways to leverage it and do it right and do it justice.
Yep.
So on that kind of theme of a department store, by necessity, you have to make your audience wide.
Yep.
Right. But there is also the sort of counterpoint to that is stand for something or stand for nothing. So how do you segment and see your audiences within the store, and how do you make sure that you're kind of drawing in the next generation while still serving the kind of the loyalists, et cetera?
Yeah. It's a really good question. And, I said this before, but for us, it's, and all of you are experts in this, right, in this broader space, but there are many ways to look and understand our customer, right? There's the behavioral ways, there's the behavioral things, and there's the demographics, and then there's attitudes and motivations. And so one is, we use segmentation as a really important tool that has to flow through the decision-making of all the functions in the organization, right? Understanding what motivates different groups of customers at different stages in their life, and then curating the products, curating the experiences for that. When it comes to the in-store experience, we try to create an optionality, right? Optionality for customers to engage on their terms, but also make sure that we can help write that narrative with them, right? And so, there's a number of things that we do, but I'm going to transport you to the store for a moment. But, one of the things that we think a lot about is our B-Way. So if you enter the store, the B-Way is what we call that black and white aisle that runs through the center of the cosmetics floor. It is the heartbeat of the store. And what we hope and our expectation to create is that regardless of what segmentation of customer you fall into, is that energy, that heartbeat, you feel it in the walls, you feel it when you walk in. And that is something, that's the baseline that we start on. And then based on high touch or, nope, I want to explore on my own, for us, actually visual is really important to us. So if you walk, and just because we're in New York, I'm using it as an example, but you arrive on the landing pad of the second floor, and what you see is a mannequin army. Well, why do we do that? Why, when we have to make choices, do we protect that? Because that's that point of view with the point of distinction. It's when you show up, am I that mannequin? Am I that mannequin? And then giving the cues to find it, right? Wayfinding throughout the store. And so we try to connect inspiration, energy, and fun with then also helpful ways for customers to almost opt in to the journey that they want.
I love that. And speaking before, you talked about the carousel situation. Just explain what that is and what that's responding to in the world of customer experience and retail.
Sure, yeah. So I think, on our mind is really how, if you are going to make that effort, right, that intention to show up to a store is we want to make it all the things that we promise it's going to be. We want to keep our say-do ratio really high, right? If we're going to do what we say and say what we do. And so one is stopping you in your tracks with unexpected moments of inspiration. And so the Carousel is an example of that, which is really it's a pop-up that's very story-led, where we take these campaigns that we do and then curate a really well-rounded assortment. Right now it's in 59th Street. And that's when, if you walk into the store, it is a super immersive experience. The walls are video. It has a dedicated docent that walks you through. And part of that is to just really engage your senses and engage that like desire to explore before you encounter the rest of the store. And that's just one type of pop-up strategy that we do to drive impulse and newness into the physical experience, and to make it, every time you show up to the store, there's something new to find, something new to explore.
And I think it speaks to, and even in the digital world, I'm sort of hearing it more, that whole idea of everything has to be completely frictionless. Actually, maybe if you want something functional, but if you want inspiration and you want to be stopped in your tracks, I think, putting the right kinds of friction and multi-sensory experience in there is vital. Yeah. So to use an awful portmanteau, phygital, which is sort of physical meets digital, omnichannel. You guys are making enormous strides there. Something is just being rolled out. We would love to hear about that journey, what it means for retail, what it means for Bloomingdales.
Yeah. So yes, whether it's omni-channel, channel agnostic, phygital, pick your word. Yes, those are the buzzwords, but they're critically important to the, I think, success of multi-channel, multi-brand retail as we move forward, because what we know to be certain is that the majority of customers, and this is a true fact, will engage with us on a digital property, on mobile web, on the desktop, on our app, on engaging with an email before they step into the store. So one is, forget even the critical role that digital plays in driving commerce. It plays a critical role in the decision making of a customer. And am I going to go visit that brand in store? And so one, that's got to be the place that we start when we think about designing omni-channel, channel agnostic strategies. And so one of the innovation projects that I have had the opportunity to create and build is our Bloomies store, which is our small store concept. We have 3. We opened our first one in August of 21, just outside of DC, which was kind of crazy. People were opening stores in 21, and we were like, yes, we're going to do that. And then we opened one a year later in just outside of Chicago. And then we just this past November entered the Seattle market for the first time with our 3rd Bloomies concept. So what is Bloomies? Bloomies is, for Bloomingdales, our small store concept. Now, small is all relative. We're talking about stores that are 25,000 to 50,000 square feet. Small for us, not necessarily small for off-mall retailing. But the amazing part of this project and why it is a key building block to our future is actually it's a connective thread to a lot of the things that we're talking about. So one is we took 151 years of, or 149 at the time, years of retailing and said, what are we amazing at and what do we got to hold on to? What are the things that if we could create a store now, from the ground up, how would we do it? And that was the starting point. And then we did the fun exercise of throw out everything that you know and just create. And then we found the sweet spot in the middle. And what we've found is these really wonderful experiences where customer satisfaction is extremely high. The engagement of our customers is higher than customers who shop with us in our full line stores. And it has been this really healthy acquisition of new customers, and not just younger customers, newer customers who, for one reason or another, just said either Bloomingdales or mall retailing isn't for me, but because we got closer to them, we're in these more traditional off-mall centers. One, They're like, we'll explore this. And two, we made the things that were quick and convenient really quick and convenient. So I'll use this example. The first one that we opened was actually only 10 minutes away from our big flagship store in the DC market, so Tysons Corner, for those who are familiar with it. 10 minutes away. Why wouldn't a customer just go to the big store? Well, the returns, to do a return in Tysons Corner, you got to navigate through and find a person. Well, here when you walk into a small store, it's right there. And what we found is that was an initial driver. But then once they got there, and this is where, the experience comes in, what they found was something that was inspirational. It felt curated to them, because the way that we curate is we actually study the behavior of what customers in the specific zip code surrounding that store are buying. And we said, okay, what can they get online? What can they get physically in this market? And then how can we offer something that matters to them, but is also a point of distinction? And so what they found is a store that felt like it was curated for them. And then they keep coming back. So one of our key KPIs that we found in each one of the stores that we opened is we've had this outsized portion of comm only to omni converters. So back to this omni story, what we found is that Bloomies has been this really powerful way to take a customer who was only engaging with us in the digital space and offering them a more modern and relevant physical expression of retail that now allowed them to become omni. And what we know is that our omni customers spend more than double our single channel customers combined. And so when you take hey, they're going to engage with us digitally to make a decision, and then once we get them, they're going to be engaged with us for a much higher lifetime value. The proposition is a winning one for us. So we're in the early innings of this. What I always make sure, as with oversight of the total customer experience, we believe in physical retail. We don't believe small stores, the replacement for big stores. We believe it is a complement when we are looking at the dynamics of a trade area, the needs of different customer bases, and saying how and where might it make sense to infill that market and just come closer to them and become more meaningful to them.
Amazing. I love that idea of building and curating based on your locality. Like why would you not do that? Seattle presumably just raincoats the whole way down.
Well, we were warned, don't become a trope and only put raincoats in Seattle. So we didn't, but there were a handful.
Very good. How are we doing for time? I don't know.
I think 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. In which case, two questions. One, I've been watching a lot of award shows. My wife is forcing me to, and I feel compelled to say, is this Bloomingdale's? What is this look?
It is. So please, if anyone is inspired to shop, don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll get you hooked up with someone wonderful, or go online. But yes, this is all Bloomingdale's.
All Bloomies. Excellent. And secondly, we're talking kind of about the present of retail here. For a nod to the future, crystal ball, if we're having this conversation 5 years from now, what are we going to be talking about in terms of Bloomingdale's, in terms of retail, in terms of department stores, et cetera?
One, maybe I've converted you to be a very engaged Bloomingdale's customer. Let's see if I've done that. Okay, 5 years from now. Two is that we wouldn't open with questioning the relevancy of department store, but we will have led the charge in its proof points. And part of that is because I truly believe in this business model, and when you think about the agility that it has, the opportunity to engage so many different types of customers at different stages in their life, and leverage the breadth of what we have as a competitive advantage to move with the ebbs and flows of consumer demand, but also help lead where the consumer goes, is we really do have so many opportunities. I know with a difference, and we were talking about this, not to steal your thing, right? But I think any of us in retail and marketing and innovation know we absolutely should celebrate the things that got us here, but we also know if we rested on those, they will not get us there. So, 5 years from now, I would hope I'd be able to share in real crisp details what were the things that we isolated in this next year, right? Were those critical pitfalls that if we didn't fix, we wouldn't be able to be that proof point, and what are the things that we've pulled through from 151 years ago that are still relevant and that we're celebrating from not only cultural relevance, but true business and customer relevance in 5 years.
Marvelous. I think you guys probably got much better questions than I had, so we'll turn it over to the audience.
That was an amazing discussion. I think just absolutely delightful and an amazing way to kick us off with this chat. I think we could all really admire how well Bloomingdale's knows itself and how to draw upon its heritage. And I'm not sure you can make a more engaged customer of me. The B-Way is
thank you so
my
much.
happy place. But I think we have time for one question before, this is the first hand up, so going over here before we head into the next fireside chat.
Rachel, great talk. I have one question, and it's an important one.
Okay.
Does your mom still collect the special edition brown bags?
That is an important one, and she does. And if I don't get it for her, she's like, what's the perk? Why do you even work there? So yes, the collection has continued. We haven't missed a beat, and I continue to build the collection on my wall as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.